You're all good. Greetings and welcome to the Chelsea Land Use Committee. It is our November meeting. Nice to see everyone. MCB4 has a hybrid policy that can be found on our website. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have disability and or an extraordinary circumstance. Excused members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. Thank you, Carrie, for doing that for us to show everyone. This meeting is being streamed. Thank you, Mike. This meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel, and a transcript is being recorded. As has been noted before, if there are any disruptions, we will pause the meeting until the disruption is clear, and we will re-engage. We have two presentations on the docket today. The first related to Vanderbilt University, and the second related to 132 West 18th Street. Before we begin publicly, I want to thank David and Pamela for their efforts to help us prepare for this meeting. They did a fantastic job sitting in on the pre-meetings for these particular presentations. I can't thank them enough for their time, energy, effort, and expertise. It means a great deal. Thank you. Thank you. On that note, I'd love to dig in and get us started. Great to have you here. Team one, you ready?
Ready. We are ready.
What you're gonna do is you're gonna go right up to the front and present from there, okay? And do we have the slideshow?
Yeah, we have a slideshow.
Yeah.
We can set up some chairs if you guys want chairs.
Yeah,
We'll
we can do that.
standing.
We'll get you comfortable. Very nice to see you. Thank you, sir. Tuck in. Jesse, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, there we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, you can slide right there. There we go. Beautiful. Thank you.
I'm gonna come.
Make room. Buy the candy there for you too. Don't think that you get away with not having candy. It's everybody have some sugar around here.
Well,
There you go, there you go. Okay, presentation. This is related to 440 West 21st, the General Theological Seminary campus, Vanderbilt University. I'm gonna turn it over to you. I'd love you to introduce yourself first.
Well, great. Thank you all so much for having Vanderbilt. Again, I was here at the Arts and Culture Committee last week, so it's great to be back. My name is James Kellerhouse. I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Strategic Initiatives and Head of Operations and Engagement for Vanderbilt in New York City. And joined by our partners from Buyer Blinder Bell, Emma and Nate. And I know that they'll, once we start the presentation, can introduce themselves. I just wanted to set the stage a bit. First and foremost, to thank you all so much for your ongoing interest and stewardship of the General Theological Seminary. I know it's been probably concern for some time to make sure that it can be restored and preserved, and will once again sort of come back to life and be vibrant. Vanderbilt University, as you know, we signed our lease agreement, which became official in September. We finally got the Department of Education approval 2 weeks ago to start our academic program. And now we're ready to get started to make some great restoration and improvements to campus in preparation for our students to join us in the fall of 26. We have a long legacy with this campus that dates way back to the Vanderbilts. Our founder's son and grandson actually served on the board of the seminary. So the stewardship of this campus is quite personal to us. For us, it really feels like coming home. And therefore, we've selected some great partners to work with us. Buyer Blinder Bell, who I introduced in the beginning, who have a long history with the seminary, historic preservation and religious institutions, was a natural partner for us on this. We've worked really hard together to, I think, really come up with a plan that focuses on the legacy of this great campus at the heart of Chelsea, that helps us improve access to the campus, but really also looks to the future on how we can activate it and include all members of the Chelsea community with that. So thank you in advance. I know Pamela and David and folks who've really helped us. You came in for a tour, you've given us some great feedback, and we're looking forward to sharing this great presentation with you.
Well, just for a point of reference, expect a 25-minute presentation, I think we figured. Then we'll do Q&A. It'll be in the room questions first, and then we'll go online, okay, to ask for those questions.
Great.
Okay.
Super. Just very briefly, it's really nice to see you all. I'm Nate Rogers.
I'm Leonard,
I'm the partner in charge of the project.
and I'm project manager.
And We, Byron Vanderbilt, haven't heard of our firm, we've been around 60 years in New York City, and our specialty is the stewardship and care of historic icons and campuses, just like the GTS campus. And we feel the burden and responsibility to take very good care of this wonderful place, which has been here for a long time and will continue to be here for many decades and centuries and more, we hope. Good, this is working. And the agenda for today, very briefly, site context and program vision, and then going through the content with you all that we aim to bring before the Landmark Reservation Commission in early December. At least that's the plan and the hope. I know you all had access to our full document that was provided, so we're actually this is a streamlined version of that in the interest of time. Same content, just shorter. So I'm not gonna dwell much on the historical background or the research. Just our firm's involvement with the site goes back to 2003, so we have a lot of information on the site and understand how it's evolved over time. Just click on the PDF, sorry. Can you do
Oh, look at that, we're clicking already derailed. See how technology.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, so you're all familiar with the site. We're not talking about the whole block, it's just what we've outlined here in yellow, which we're gonna dive into. This view is looking southeast. This is 21st Street, of course, between 9th and 10th Avenues. This is a different way of looking at it, the same exact idea. So everything in this light gray tone are the properties still owned or managed by GTS, which are being taken over by Vanderbilt. That's part of the 99-year ground lease. Of course, we're right smack in the middle of the Chelsea Historic District, which is why we're talking to you all tonight. These are the buildings here in yellow. Just to kind of frame the discussion a little bit, when you look back at the designation of the districts, the Landmarks Preservation Commission in the nomination report specifically included language recognizing that GTS, like other large academic institutions and campuses, have different needs in terms of their evolution as compared to other kinds of properties. So they were very specific to say that by designating this site, it's not intended to freeze over time. They recognize that it's not a good idea to prevent future appropriate alterations, which would be needed by the seminary or its future lessees. We don't really talk about use in terms of the community board or landmark preservation commissions. That's more of a zoning issue. But we bring this up to say that the historical uses of the buildings by GTS are being maintained by Vanderbilt. We're really not changing the uses of buildings compared to how they're being used today. So it's a very sensitive stewardship-minded approach to how Vanderbilt is coming on with things. Okay, so let's dive into the design. And what we're talking about here, in some ways, is very straightforward. We're talking about some changes to the entry sequence. We're talking about improvements for accessibility. We're talking about site lighting, and we're talking about signage. We're not talking about any new footprint, no new buildings, no rooftop additions. In the scheme of things in New York City, this is actually it's a small potatoes application, but it's important to get it right. And so we'll walk you through all those things. So we're going to start at the landscape site scale. Here you're seeing the existing conditions, and we'll just point out that at some point a little bit recently, a lot of the bluestone paving was replaced by concrete by the seminary. This is going back a few years. This is the existing condition. And then this is the proposed condition. We're going to dive into these little areas, but we just want to point out that all of the concrete will be removed and the new bluestone will put back. So we're going to unify the entire campus palette, which will bring it back in alignment with the historical materials. So we'll go one by one here very quickly, starting with the 21st Street entry, this dais. We'll jump over to Sherrod. We'll talk about these ramps at the Seabury and the Chapel, and then Hoffman. The top half of this image is just to explain kind of where things stand. There's the concrete, the bluestone that still exists is not in great shape. There's been frost heaving and problems with the joints. The 21st Street entry, which is now the main way to come into the campus, none of that's original, and it's also low quality materials. It's stucco and diamond plate steel, things like that. But we have very good cues to draw on in terms of the new interventions by what's been done somewhat recently at the Desmond Tutu Center. at the Chelsea Enclave, the language of bluestone pavers, brownstone site walls, brownstone copings, and, ornamental metal guardrails and handrails. So diving into 21st Street, you all know this history, this, part of the campus, it's not so historic. And it has gone through a lot of iterations over time. This is how it looks today, with the blue sign. This is just not befitting the main entrance to the GTS campus. And here's a bit more context, which you may be familiar with the concrete forecourt, and this whole stair and wall assembly, which is not in great shape and not original. So the proposal that we're showing, this is existing, this is our base proposed plan. We're hoping we have money in the budget for this, but our backup option would be to keep it a little bit more simple. So we're sort of, aiming for this, but that may be where we end up. But the approach is the same in each in terms of this zone, which is a new fence and gate, new stairs that are wider than what we have here, and then a new wheelchair lift to actually make this an accessible entrance to the campus. Could not find any images of the original gate on 9th Avenue. This is Jarvis Hall, which was torn down. But we looked at other gates in the city, here at Pratt, up at Barnard, at Columbia, and also Charles Haight, the architect, designed a building called Vanderbilt Hall, amazingly, at Yale. And this is Charles Haight's gate, which is a good reference for us, as well as some more modern gate precedents. And just to put this in context, this will be the new gate between Seabury and Moore. It's about 14 feet wide, 10 feet tall, just to give you the sense of scale. And these are some visualizations for how that would look. So here you see the design of it, and we're between a 1930s building and a 1950s building, so it's not appropriate to make something that looks like it's from the 19th century. This wants to be of its moment, but it's sympathetic and sort of in the feeling of the campus, and we think we're achieving that. As we kind of move into the site, this is the new stair, this is the wheelchair lift, which will be very kind of clean and simple. We'll have ornamental railings surrounding that. This is a site section, just to give you a sense of, they'll come up the stairs, and then this is that sort of little tiny plaza where the two axes of circulation meet. There'll be benches and crepe myrtles, which is a beautiful kind of Vanderbilt meets the city moment. Here's a 3D rendering of that location. And then we'll just kind of move through the accessibility improvements. So starting with the terrace here, these are the existing conditions. Very, very, very subtle change. What we're doing is just adding a 3% slope walk to get you up about the 6-inch elevation change. There's a step all along here, which makes this inaccessible currently. Jumping all the way over to the east, we're gonna do the easy ones first, and then they get harder. But over at Sheridan, there's sort of a 2-step elevation change here to this building. Existing condition, this is the proposed condition, which is a 4.5% slope. So just a slope path, we don't have a need for guardrails or handrails. And that will take you up to a rebuilt stoop in the building.
I'm sorry, so there still will be stairs on one side.
Correct, correct, yeah. And that was to keep the grading as flat as possible. We had a great conversation with Ken one day about that for a night. So this is how the sort of elevation looks there. The Seabury and the chapel ramps. So we were asked by LPC staff, well, was there any way to make one ramp serve both purposes? We had looked very carefully at that, but it's just not feasible because of the constraints inside the building. We'd have to make modifications inside the chapel, which is really not desirable. So we have these 2 ramps. One serves Seabury Hall, one serves the chapel itself, and they're sort of like siblings, not twins, but siblings. We'll start on the west side. This is Seabury, existing conditions. And then we're always showing you the existing plan and the proposed plan. So what you're seeing here is a ramp that gets you up about 3.5 feet from this elevation to the stoop elevation. But it's masked by a brownstone site wall with a coping, with sort of a seat wall you can sit on. And so this is what that elevation would look like. And we're avoiding the 30-inch fall conditions, so we don't need this to be a guardrail. So it's just a handrail, it can be very clean and quiet. And then jumping over to the east side, this is the chapel. There is an existing ramp into the side entrance, but actually this is too steep to be accessible. This does not work in its current location. So we're gonna take a similar approach, existing and proposed. Here we get a bit more room to work with as opposed to the other side. So here we're actually able to also integrate some planting. So we'll have the seat wall, planting, and then the ramp, and that'll look like this. So again, kind of quiet, and we'll have signage which explains what ramp takes you where, so that will, the wayfinding will all be very clear. And then the last accessibility improvement is over here at Hoffman, where there is a wheelchair lift that went in with the Tutu Center, but we've had problems with it, and we can create a better situation down at the main entrance, but we've always been struggling with this one, and so we looked at whether or not this can become a ramp and actually become more universally accessible. The lifts are not loved by people that have to use them. So existing condition, first we looked at a switchback option, but this was very visually intrusive, especially when you get on campus and you look down that long axis to the west. And so the proposal we're recommending and moving forward with is a ramp that sort of makes a stopping point at Lorillard Hall here. So you come in, you come up, you meet the Lorillard landing, and then you keep going, and you get the 3.5 feet of elevation change up to Hoffman.
Just a quick reminder, folks online are not able to see you.
Oh, true.
So just
Okay.
a brief description of which. You're talking
Thanks for the
about.
reminder, Justin, I apologize.
It's okay.
For folks online, we're talking about the top right image there in the long ramp. This is the elevation for how that would look. Here, we do have a 30-inch fall condition, so this would be a continuous guardrail, as you can see, but it keeps this view down into Hoffman clean and clear and historically appropriate. And it does actually prepare that Lorillard entrance, which is on the screen now, to be accessible for future accessibility upgrades. So it has that added benefit. We're really trying to make the whole campus more equitable, which is a long-term challenge, but we're committed to it. That's accessibility. I'm just gonna keep on running and we'll save the questions to the end. Site lighting, we're just talking about 3 different types of lights in this context. There's a set of lights which are staff overview because they meet the guidelines of the Landmarks Commission, so we're not talking about those tonight. What we are talking about are 3 building mounted lights here at the entrance. Sorry, I am pointing, but they're between Moore and Seabury. And then 6 pole mounted lights, which are the bright pink color, 2 and 2 over to the east. And then we've got lights in the handrails, which helps us not have a whole ton of floodlights all over the campus. This is not, we're not really talking about this tonight, but we are restoring all the historic fixtures that are still there. We're creating new fixtures that are replicas of the historic existing ones. So we're taking a very sensitive, historically appropriate approach to the campus. Here, we're just talking about, sorry, I guess it's 3, but actually it's 4 fixtures, very small and quiet. This one here you see on the screen. And that's just to meet our code required light levels in this entry court. So they'll be mounted on Seabury and Moore halls. We had a conversation with some folks of the committee about why a very good question, why we're not upgrading this elevation more, which is pretty unfortunate, but that is going to be part of a future phase of work. So these sort of sad looking doors are staying for the moment until we can get to them. And we'll come back to you and talk about them probably, in a year or 2. This is FX3, the reminder that there's 6 of these. They're showing up in the plan here. These are pole mounted, very minimal, very quiet, and the optics are focused to just get light where we need it. So minimal glare, not an impact on the neighbors. You can see the photo on the left is showing you that kind of light in context. And then we're just kind of explaining how that looks on these existing photos on the right. And then the last type of lighting that's coming before you are the handrail mounted lights, which are not the continuous linear fixtures. They're just the little pucks that provide these little spots of light, which will be more historically appropriate. So that's lighting. And then the last chapter here is signage. What am I doing? Oh, pretty good, actually. We wanted to be very on time here. Digging into the signage. So with the signage, of course, where we start from is what's the zoning as of right. And then we squeeze that down to what we think is appropriate, you know, in terms of the architecture and the atmosphere of the campus. So what we're actually gonna show you is much less than what is allowed by zoning, but we want to find the right balance here for the building. And the zoning overlay is just that we have the commercial overlays on 10th and 9th Avenue, and then we're considered residential in the middle of the block. And that has specific allowances for the square footage of signage. But does not allow for things like, you know, backlit or illuminated signs. We're not, you know, of course, we're not proposing anything like that. And, you know, when we look around Manhattan, we think of other academic campuses. And there is a place here in the city for pageantry and kind of insignia and a little bit of branding and wayfinding that leads you to entrances, that expresses the brand identity of the institution. And so we hope you'll agree that there's room for this on the site. These are beautiful, robust, monumental buildings, and they can allow for a little bit of signage, which expresses Vanderbilt's, you know, future and current role here on the campus. This is just to bring us back to the site. These are some of the areas that we're going to talk about. For instance, we're on 10th Avenue here, looking north, approaching 21st Street on the upper left. Then view 2, now we're at 21st, looking east. So this is Hoffman Hall, that we're around the corner on. And because we do not have property on 9th Avenue, this is Vanderbilt's property on 10th Avenue. It's kind of the opportunity to wave the flag and say Vanderbilt's here. I'm very excited to be here. So we want to keep that in mind as we run through this. Of course, this is what it feels like to walk down the block, which is one of the long city blocks. This explains all of the signage, but it's hard to tell what we're actually talking about. So we'll dig right into the presentation here. Two things we want to focus on first. One is this identification moment, which we'll dig into, this sign here at the corner of 10th Avenue and 21st. And then this idea for pageantry with fabric banners at very strategic locations running down 21st Street. Because we have this mid-block entrance, we want to draw you down the street and in, right? We don't have that avenue entrance. And with this sign, you know, we'll get into the details, but we're also thinking of the context of 10th Avenue, which is a fast-moving, commercial, busy avenue. 10th Avenue can accommodate a sign like this. We really do believe that. So here are some of the details for how that would work. We have chosen not to do individual pin letters because individual pin letters mean many more holes in the masonry. So from a preservation of material fabric standpoint, it's much better to give it a backing. And we're using the color black because that's consistent with the brand identity across our entire signage approach. And then it would sort of turn the corner and you would get the gold V there. And then there's a smaller sign here, which just explains, yes, you're here, but you gotta walk a little further down the block. You know, so the block. So this is a close-up of how that would look. We have looked at many options and we've landed on this as being the best approach. You know, it strikes that balance between being visible, being appropriate, and also very reversible, which is a preservation goal, right? We have kind of minimal faceting and we can take that off if we need to. The materiality, by the way, is a porcelain enamel, so a very cleanable, low maintenance, high quality material. And then this is the approach for the banners. So they're about 16 inches by 9 feet. 9 feet sounds like a lot, but actually they're up in the air and the scale is going to feel very appropriate. And this is that idea of just kind of drawing your eye down to the entry gate. You know, here between Seabury and Moore, which is kind of in the middle of the image, folks online. And we want to create kind of a regular cadence, right? Not a bunch of banners in one place and then have a big gap, or only have 3, you know, a fifth of a mile, which is a very long distance to walk. This is another view. So the number is 11 that we're proposing, and it's 11 fairly evenly spaced. They're very considerate of the architecture in terms of where they're landing. Then we're going to talk about the 2 gate entrances here, 21st Street and 20th Street. This is what they look like today. We're going to continue using 21st Street with those changes I described as the main entrance. This will be a secondary entrance always, and we're not We did look at whether or not this could ever be made accessible, but that would impact the trees there, which are very beautiful, so we wanna always take a light touch down here. This is always gonna be kind of the second entrance and not the first. So we're proposing at both entrances what's called an event box in Landmarks terms, which is a display with a glass front, and you can slot in posters that describe events and programming. So you can see in the bottom right for folks online, that would be on the right side of the entrance here as we walk in. The gate builds this opening here. Same thing on 20th Street. So there's actually an event box already there that GTS to put in, so we just replace that. So now we have a very light touch in terms of how it attaches to the existing metal fencing. And then in conversation with GTS, we're gonna have a plaque on both streets, 20th and 21st, that explains not only GTS's historical association with the site, they've built the site, they've occupied the site for essentially 200 years. But they haven't left the site, right? There's still a presence on campus. They're gonna run their in-person intensives every summer here. And so this is a way of explaining that it's not GTS and now Vanderbilt, it's now GTS and Vanderbilt. So that's what this small plaque is gonna be here. So you're just seeing kind of all that signage come together. That's that plaque. And this is the event box on 20th Street. And now we're gonna move into the close, which is what we call the courtyard, wayfinding signage. So we're gonna take this sign out, which is quite large and visually intrusive, and we're gonna deploy a series of very minimal and quiet wayfinding signs that you see on the right-hand side of the image here, which will be vertically oriented and have the map of the campus, very clear and legible and logical. These are about 16 inches tall by, about 7 feet tall by 16 inches wide, black and aluminum. We're also allowing for, I think, 3 or 4 interpretive signs, which will be an opportunity for Vanderbilt to help explain the history of the site. These will be out in the landscape. We can do more content on a 2-leg or less content on 1 leg. So we have 3 locations for that. That's what these look like. Those can include images and narratives, really all that wonderful history. These are smaller signs that explain where the accessible entrances are. These are about a little less than 3 feet tall. And then we're getting into the building mounted signage. We didn't go into it here, but the existing signs are very large. So we're reducing that to something more minimal. These are about 1 foot by 6 inches, very, very quiet, very elegant. These are also black and aluminum building mounted by the doors. Here you can see an example of that in this rendering right here. And then this is the last slide, but some kind of vinyl graphic within the Keller Library space, which is part of the Chelsea Enclave. That's going to become Vanderbilt space. And it's just a moment for a little more branding. Again, we're inside the close. This is a reversible condition. I will do it. Okay, 24 minutes. Yeah. You know your time is valuable.
I know.
So thank you all for listening. I know that was rapid. So we can go back to any of the slides we saw, and we're happy to answer all your questions.
Actually, before we go to questions, I can't help making a bit of an aside here. Could we go back to the slide where you showed where the campus is within the Chelsea Historic District?
Sure.
This may be familiar history to some of you, but the historic district was originally the estate of Clement Clark Moore, who wrote The Night Before Christmas. And when the street grid went through and chopped up his estate, he decided to market lots within it for sale, mainly for housing. And he donated the block that the seminary is on to the Episcopal Church. His father was the Episcopal bishop. He himself taught Hebrew and Greek, biblical languages, and eventually taught at the seminary. He donated it as a gift to the seminary. And his idea was that it would be like a village green, a focus for Chelsea, like Washington Square, Arrow Gramercy Park, and help grow a kind of upscale residential community around it. And originally it only had 2 buildings on it, one of which is still there. So it was very much a green expanse. And brilliance of Charles Coolidge Hayes' enlargement of the campus in the 1890s was that he built mainly along the north, east, and west, and left the campus open to the south. And the chapel, which is the focus of the addition, faces south on the model of medieval cloisters. And Moore had stipulated front gardens for the opposite side of 20th Street, which you can see in front of the Cushman Row row houses. And that's the reason it's one of the best blocks in New York. It's because of the greenery right and left. And that openness to the south is very critical. And it's really the nucleus of Chelsea, and it was actually called Chelsea Square for a long time. And I just need to point out, part of the sensitivity of the NYCHA plan is that it could potentially cast this into shadow, just as with Chelsea Park and large parts of the Highland. So.
Thank you, David. Let's do some questions in the room. Brad, I see your hand up as well. We'll do questions in the room first. And I'm gonna let some folks besides David and Pamela jump in to start. Okay, I'll come back to you. Paul, let's start that way. We'll go around. Paul.
Well, my first question actually ties into what David was just talking about. This was originally open green space for the neighborhood. And you're talking a lot about the entry gates on 21st Street and kind of making gates there, but we couldn't find originals. Were they, was it open and there are no gates? Because access from the public to that, we have opposed gates on 20th Street because it wasn't in line with the original intent of the construction of that block. So the notion of no gates might be an appealing situation here because it ties into the green space for the neighborhood. It wasn't, gates weren't original to the building, so why are we building gates?
Yeah, we have to talk about that. So
Is that something you guys talked about when you met with them?
It actually didn't occur to us, there's a gate there now, it's
Right.
very utilitarian, and this is.
That was not original, right? It's not,
No.
and it was open, it was green space, so one of my initial reactions
Yeah,
was,
let's
let's bring it back to, so I'd love to hear your argument.
Sure, so I think there's two key aspects of the history here. So if you go back, I think as David very eloquently put, when Clark Moore gave the lands and the early decades of the seminary, the vision was these buildings out in the middle of the landscape, and it was very public space. That truly was Chelsea Square. When the dean of the seminary, Eugene Hoffman, hires Charles Coolidge Hayes as his architect, they looked to a totally different, and frankly, European reference. Not, now it's not the Village Green of New England or, the Northeast. They're looking at Oxford and Cambridge residential colleges, which those themselves were former Aves or based on Aves. And so that was very much about an enclosed quadrangle gated landscape. And pretty much from the Carl Schule, our understanding is from the Haight plan, it was always fenced and gated. And that became particularly required, in the 20s and 30s, because it was, they had to keep the seminarians, from all the evil influences of the city. So probably it's about keeping the seminarians in rather than the assets forced out. So there's a long history of fences and gates. We know that at different times, the gates have been unlocked, locked, certain people have had different kinds of access. The fact is we are bringing undergraduates on the campus now. And we need to deliver a certain level of safety. So we will have locked gates, as GTS has had locked gates for some time now. And the new gate is replacing an existing gate, as I think.
I have three questions on something.
Let's
So, all right, so the gates.
That's a long answer.
Yeah, well, this committee has specifically voted against gates for security reasons on historic sites on this block. So I'm gonna be interested to see how that reaction comes forward. Second thing is on the light posts, again, they seem very modern, and this committee has specifically voted against modern light fixtures and the posts, and if there's a way we can, maybe the fixtures at the top were very modern looking, doesn't seem like the aesthetic of the green. And if you considered alternatives that were more historic looking in nature. Again, to align with previous things this committee has voted on.
Sure, we wouldn't make a blanket statement about gates or fences in the neighborhood. What we can say is that the period of significance for this site are the Charles Coolidge 8 years, and at that time, the site was fenced and gated. So our view is it is historically appropriate and it's historically complicated. That may not satisfy you, but that would be our response.
Right, when we proposed gates previously, it was at the entrances to the former faculty houses. But the perimeter, for recent history, onto the grounds has been gated.
And you know, it's already for original, so I'm just using your arguments to see how to conclude that, that's all. But
It kind of goes back to these competing visions for the site.
yeah, absolutely.
The open vision, pretty much by the time Kate was building the buildings, that vision was gone. And the buildings that we live in now are part of a different vision.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that your answer related to light fixture?
Like for sure.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
That was the primary.
We feel like we want to strike the right balance. We don't want to create false history or put light fixtures in that look like Charles Coolidge gate design. And we think the better approach here is to do something very quiet and minimal. That also the reason we're picking that fixture, which I can back up and show you, is about the optics. You don't get historic fixtures that behave like fixtures. And we're very sensitive to the neighbors' concerns that are used to a certain level of light here. So the very good thing about this type of fixture is it just pools light on the ground. There's no glare, you don't see the bulb at all, and so that it's really a performance reason that we're shooting.
And that's also a kind of a conventional strategy when introducing new lighting fixtures in historic context. You don't want to presume what would Charles Coolidge have designed, and then you're kind of competing with him, and maybe you've got it wrong. If you do something that's neutral and kind of selfie-facing, that shows more respect. And if you look at the light poles in, let's say, the New York Public Library.
Well, I'm thinking of the Holy Apostles light post, what we approved for, Holy Apostle, because that was similar in content, there was grounds that were historic. They had proposed something, I thought it would look much like this, and we had suggested alternatives to that, so I'm just trying to remember what we did at Holy Apostle, maybe we can look at those.
That was me. And I tried to persuade Holy Apostles to consider having a historic, light pole there. And
Yeah.
a beautiful 17-foot one that we actually have in our ken. Waiting for a home. I didn't even bring it up to these guys because I knew that it was not gonna happen. While I agree with you, I'd rather see something with a little more sense of antiquity to it, maybe than just a pole.
Yeah.
But I get their point. I get the point. This is.
No,
you know,
but I'm just trying to be consistent in what we have taken positions on a lot of these
Yeah.
issues in the past, and I just want us to
Yeah,
have some consistency in our.
and Holy Apostles was my idea, and it didn't fly at all. They didn't go near it,
Those are-
and
Right.
landmarks could have cared less.
And then my third question, because you guys pre-met the number of holes in the walls, we always have this fight about banners, building holes into things, and I appreciate that the corner placard has minimal impact in not pinning holes, but I appreciate that, but I was wondering how the pre-discussion was on those banners. All along 21st Street, 11 banners on buildings, seems again like.
That was an issue we seized on.
Yeah.
You want to speak on one?
Yeah, may I speak? Yeah, as, the major signage on the 10th Avenue side, kind of what persuaded me to agree that it would be fine. Was, the fact that it's enameled. It's a very classy act. If it was on aluminum, I would be very unhappy, but it's on enamel, which has to be a steel enameling surface, and has the advantage that you can clean graffiti off it really easily. Great, that's one thing. And the other was, although we've kind of we don't like the idea that we lose so much of the visual of the brownstone wall. I've always loved that wall. But it's only 8 feet up and very, I could see people chinning themselves on bars and stuff. And
You talking about me? No, I promise I won't do that.
And also people who decided, as David suggested, that if they saw their initials up there, gee,
That you're talking about if they did.
if they did the pin
Right.
version, which we talked about, and so we kind of are resolved that this is a good way to resolve that.
Well, thanks.
Jessica,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
With reference to the banners, that's a sticking point with me. I really am not happy with all those banners, and particularly not with the banners on Hoffman Hall. You've got 3 of them, I've actually got 4, that are embedded into the realm. buttressing, which makes such a beautiful statement on that beautiful building. I would like to see it get any kind of, stuff.
This is a rendering.
Yeah, those guys. Yeah, I frankly think Vanderbilt, its presence is so real and everybody's aware of it, and people who are looking for the entrance aren't gonna have that much trouble finding it from your wayfinding post that you will have in the corner there. Yeah, that, no, it's not, I don't see it.
Oh, sorry, it's not showing up there.
Yeah, it's not showing up too well. It's in back of the do not enter sign.
Yeah.
But between that, it leads you down the south side of the block going east. It's not that far to get to the gate. Banners on either side of the, on Seabury and on Moore, I think are appropriate. And, the one could be black with the yellow lettering and the other yellow with the black lettering, those two guys. Yeah, I think that's really all you need. Frankly, that's my take on it. I just, the other thing is that most of that block, in fact, almost entirely, that the north side of the block is residential. There's only one commercial site and it's on the 9th Avenue end. I would think if the people who live there on 21st Street were really fully aware that this was the intention, that those banners would not be happy at all about it. I know of one household that isn't happy. I haven't canvassed the block, but I'm pretty sure, given their investment in very residential looking neighborhood, that this would not be acceptable for them. So that's my take on it.
I'm gonna go to Jesse.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you so much for the presentation. Just to go off of what the conversation from before, I do have to say I am a little disappointed that the plan is to keep the gates locked at all times. I would think we're gonna have campus security and keeping the gates open at least during the daytime, giving the public some access to all these wonderful improvements that you're making isn't completely unreasonable. I do hope you would consider that and can talk about that.
I don't think we know yet, we just couldn't make guarantees now that they would be open. So I think,
But yeah, sure, but I just wanted to put that out there, and then I just as a question, because, you know, so that you're making the main entrance on the 21st Street. Although to me, it seems like the natural main entrance would be on 20th Street, because you get to see the grand, you know, garden, but the main reason for not doing that is just because it would interfere with these historic trees, and are there other trees that play there? Like, why are we so focused on 21st Street being the main entrance?
the other reason is, our security team is gonna be in Seabury Hall, and so they're very proximate to the entrance. We would come back to you and ask you to approve a guard booth down here, which I don't think you wanna do. So there's just no infrastructure at this point right now, and making it accessible would be a big effort. So, that's why we kind of stuck with that plan. Just to remind everybody, like, the original historic entrance was on 9th Avenue, but that, once that property was sold, that's when it changed. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. This is definitely a ceremonial entrance, and we would always keep that gate. I think, I'm sure, you know, sometimes there's weddings and the people want to come in that way, that may continue to happen. But it's not to say we devalue it, there's just some functional reasons.
You said that was gonna be a gate that had a magnetic release to it, so that it could be used and could be controlled somehow.
Yeah, and that's how it is now, that's how it was
Okay.
on the seminary. If I could, on your privilege, just return to the banners for 2 seconds, we understand your concerns, I think. We feel like this is robust architecture that can handle banners of this size, you know, that. We love these buildings, I hope you understand our love is being expressed through this presentation. We wouldn't do anything that we didn't think was appropriate, but this is obviously may just be a difference of opinion. We feel like 11 is not that many for a long New York City block, which just has a nice regular.
Residential lot.
Yeah, but we are in conformance with residential zoning requirements. That would be very clear. This is as of right zoning. It's just a question of appropriateness, which is a discussion for.
Message received.
Yeah.
Okay, others, Jesse, you good?
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions? Let's go, Inga, and then we'll go.
Yeah, I am happy with everything. I think on the end of the 3 banners on that beautiful building, I would at least skip those. Because you've got the sign, maybe keep the rest of the banners, but on those beautiful columns, I would try not to put those 3 banners. You have the sign there. that's just a secondary. My main,
That's helpful.
issue is with the lighting. I like the lights. Because they don't shine anywhere else. They don't shine into the trees, they don't shine into the neighborhood. It's a darkish block, and it's also very bad for wildlife to have the lights in the gardens and the trees. They have lived there, the wildlife has been there forever. We want to keep as much wildlife alive as we can and birds. So if those lights could even be censored at night, like after 11 or something like that, you know, late at night, there's no need for them to be on. Perhaps they could be, some of them could be turned off. To keep that a dark, because it's really not healthy for animals and birds to have light at night. It's just wrong.
I'm gonna go to Viren next, and then we'll swing right back around. Viren, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe, I totally agree with Paul, I'm not quite sure about the gates, the number of, the height of the gates is the second issue there. Why do you need gates, first of all, which I think it goes against the sort of, the flavor of the place itself. So I'm not for it, I agree with you, Paul. Second thing I agree with, is that reducing the number of panels would be very, very helpful. If you go around Columbia University, it's a huge campus, the number of panels are limited. And they actually tend to be a bit more because each school has its own identity. You have one block and a sort of pretty unified identity position. So I think putting them on both sides of the gate or the main entrance might just suffice. Last thing that I will ask you is paving that you're replacing all the concrete stuff, which is fantastic. What kind of pavers are you putting back? Are you putting back grass pavers so that it will allow percolation?
Putting back bluestone pavers, yeah.
What I'm talking about joints between.
Oh, is it pervious, I think is what you're
Are you
asking.
keeping open?
It's not, it may be a little bit impractical to do that. We have utilities underneath, which affects the drainage approach. But I will say that it's not a lot of hardscape compared to all the grass that we have. So it's something we'll look at, but we can't.
Sure, I think it's the kind of time
We'll be able to
that
commit
is
to it now.
pretty high level.
Yeah.
And the entire campus is at a higher elevation.
That's right.
And that again brings me back to the question of gates, because when you already have that height, that precludes people from going in and out comfortably. The height of the gates might not be that tall. But the second thing is, I would rather not have gates.
Say it again, sorry.
Rather not have any gates there.
Yeah.
And I think it's a campus that sort of should remain inviting. I walk past that place every single day. And more, very often I feel like going in there with it's locked. And the timing might not be right and whatnot, but at least during the day when it's becoming a university and the students are going to be in and out, them remaining open is absolutely the least people like that, but ideally, that's not even happens.
No, I just, I'm sure Vanderbilt, that's something Vanderbilt maybe willing to consider, we would be able to provide those guarantees. And it's a little outside the landmarks protocol, you know, but we absolutely understand where you're coming from. Okay.
We got other hands up, so, but is it related to Viren? Go ahead, Viren. Oh, I'll come back. Ellen, did you have questions?
Oh, I was just gonna say, in support of the lights, being an undergraduate, it's a little dangerous, especially at night if you're walking on campus, I think those lights are really important.
Kate?
Thanks. Also, two things. Well, one in connection with the lights. I know on a lot of campuses, they also have like those. Like blue lights,
Like blue.
30, yeah. Are you planning any of those?
Just doing it.
One at outside of Cedar, the one outside of Alpha.
Yeah, they'll be building mounted. They're not. Oh, but they're not lights.
They're not like,
They're not.
they're solar powered.
Right.
So then they're also on?
The light won't be on, but we don't need to run wiring to them, there's sort of an independent module, but.
But it's visible if you're walking on campus and you don't feel safe.
Yes, and I
Yeah,
know,
those two.
yes.
Where
They have a solar powered thing a little louder because we like
A
it.
little hard to hear
Oh,
that.
yeah.
We sort of like solar.
You'll like this.
Yeah.
The blue phone units are independent units, so we don't need to disturb additional landscape in order to run wiring to them. They're solar powered, so they'll be sort of the two standalone locations.
Bravo.
Okay, and then the other thing was, also about the gates, I know, up at Columbia, that their gates were open forever, I mean, at least during the day, and it was a very open campus. And then when they actually closed them for, reasons they chose to close them, it was actually very upsetting to the community. So again, I just think the message getting passed along.
Yeah.
And I understand your point that, it's maybe a little bit outside the purview of us, but on the other hand, having gates at all, like if we want to approve gates, we should at least understand if they're gonna always be locked, or if they're gonna be, if the public can get in there.
I'm sure that's something that James.
Yeah, I mean,
I can.
no, it's okay, I can comment on it now, because we've invested in a security team, actually on campus, 2 security officers. And people can now be buzzed into those gates, into a welcome area screened by security, and then they're welcome to campus. So we're looking at what that program will look like when students are actually on campus and having regular hours where people can visit the campus. They could buzz in on either side, actually be opened, come in, get a visitor badge, walk around campus. But we can't have the campus open to virtually anyone who wants to come onto the campus. And I will tell you, already, we have an incident log of people trying to push that gate open late at night, even during the day, and they're not people who should honestly be on campus. So we have to balance security of our students with the openness that we want to have. Already, we've opened the campus significantly, actually, since Vanderbilt has taken over. So I think our commitment to the public, to public events, to public tours is something that we're committed to. We're committed to having the campus open. We just have to balance that with appropriate security.
So it sounds like when you say open, you mean if people go through the sort of security checks, then they would be allowed on, as opposed to, quite literally, the gates being open, people could just walk in.
We'll balance it, I think is what I'm going to say, sort of day to day. We have to be careful with who's coming on campus, but we will actually have a number of events. Like we had with Open House New York and others, where we'll schedule things that the gates can be open, and we're staffed then appropriately to manage the people who are coming on campus.
If I could just maybe add to what you're saying, but we can't speak to Columbia's arrangement there necessarily, but here, as you may or may not be aware, each of these little residence halls is very porous to the close. That you're literally one layer from an undergraduate's bedroom, and we're shifting from the use of the campus from graduate seminary students to undergraduates, right? Be as young as 18, 19, and first time away from home. So we're just taking that security need very seriously. So I think you just have to bear with us as Vanderbilt figures it out.
Pamela, David, and then we'll do, sorry, Josephine first.
Back to the gate, front gate, is there going to be a 24-hour person there?
Not on the 20th Street break gate.
Oh, sorry, which gate?
The
main
sorry,
gate.
the main gate,
Main
the main gate,
Yes.
there will be a 24-hour person there,
Yeah.
okay. I guess, for downtown, we're very used to, uptown Columbia, they have gates, downtown NYU, we're just used to these open campuses, so bear with us too, like, we're just trying to figure this out.
Again, for us, it does come back that there's just, once you get to the building door, you're like 2 steps from someone's bedroom.
Right.
And I think, NYU dorms, I know are not that way. Like, NYU dorms, there's a security person in the building, we're not gonna have that. So it really is apples.
Hand up here.
Yeah, Josephine, good?
Yes.
Okay, Brian?
Huge supporter of the front gate, where I work, double doors. For every space that employees occupy, and you have to have it, so I'm very supportive of that gate.
Okay, Pamela, David, and then you do Brad.
About the gate, I'm in sympathy with Paul's opinion about it, and it would be lovely to have it open and be able to just walk in and enjoy the close at any time. I've been a visitor on that campus since 1965. It has never been open to the public for very good reasons that you just described. There were student residences, it just wouldn't have been appropriate to have it open. It was A little bit easier to get on campus when the entrance was on Ninth Avenue, and there were, it was a little more grand entrance there, but, this entrance used to be the garbage, where they took the garbage out.
That's right.
But it was always gated in my record, back, all the way back to, right when they took down the building on 1900, the original. That it was gated, it was always gated. Can we, on another question that it just occurred to me, can we go back to the page that has the chapel and the walkways, the ramps on both sides of the chapel?
And while you're doing that, you mentioned solar lights. Are you gonna make as many lights everywhere, solar? As many as you can?
As many as we can, I mean, yeah, it depends on the specification.
Thank you.
So, no, not that one, the side view
Oh.
of the west elevation of the chapel.
That one.
Right there. You said, that because it's more than 30 feet long, it doesn't need to just have a fancy.
No, it's the elevation.
It has to do with if there's a risk of falling, that's more than a 30-inch drop, then you have to put in pickets and.
But you don't have that here.
We don't, the seawall creates that barrier, so.
That's wonderful. So the railing that's there.
Yeah.
Would it be possible that instead of having it where it is, put it up against the sidewall of the chapel so that it's less obtrusive?
Ideally, that would be great, because of the steepness of the ramp, we do need railings on both sides.
Oh, down. So there's gonna be a railing on the side and on the other. That was
Yeah, and as soon as you exceed a
I was
5% slope.
trying to get it less
I know,
visually.
but this is much better than it could have been, so.
I'm sure
that
it
helps.
First dam of the night, okay.
Actually, I'd like to hear any questions Brad has, and
Okay,
then
sure.
maybe come back for a little.
Carrie had her hand up briefly as well, so Brad? Carrie, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
See,
First
Brad?
of all, if David approves of modern lights, I am in. That's a first. And I remind everybody, we approved very similar lights at the church on, was it 26th and 9th? When they were lighting it up. It's very similar and it looks great. If anybody wants to look at it, they're there now. I have a couple questions. I'll go quick, Chair. So we're all
Thank you.
talking security, but nobody brought up security cameras. Where are they gonna be? How are they gonna look? Are they gonna be big with goosenecks hanging out on the corner? I'd like to know about that. I love the panels. I think they're great. This is a jewel for Chelsea. I walk, and my daughter went to school there when it was open, and I think it's kind of a bland. You just don't see it, and it would bring my eye up to look at the windows, to look at the different buildings. So I am for it. I would also like one of the banners to say Vanderbilt Chelsea, something like that. The next one I have is, I think, to Paul's point, the 20th Street side should be a grand entrance up into the park and to the church. I think, I don't see it as a historical problem to make that more grand and to pull back that retaining wall and slide over some of that greenery, because it should be grand and I think it would look great. I mean, I think Pam said it, that entrance on 21 should be the security side and where a lot of the commercial stuff happens. And my fourth question is to David. David, we fought for all those years to have that sign on 10th to say it's open to the public. Is now the new 99-year lease take away that?
Oh, he's talking about the Chelsea Hotel.
Yeah.
Brad, you're speaking about the space in front of the Chelsea Hotel, right?
Yeah, but we always fought for that sign, and David in particularly, they would move it, they would hide it. But I understood we could come in there and also go into the sanctuary through that entrance there. I mean, am I wrong on that? That's why I'm asking.
No, I think they agreed informally to make that space. This is where the cafe, the outdoor cafe, on Chelsea Highline Hotel is.
Over here.
And, you know, there was never, anything that, locked them into doing that, but they kind of backed off on their agreement by having a little tiny sign that they would kind of.
Yes,
They
but
would
there are
kind of
those
shove
of us
behind
that
the dog-
know and
the
go
dog
in
order.
anyway.
You know,
Let them, yeah, wanna respond?
Yeah, so I think the first question is security cameras. So we're gonna follow the LPC guidelines for security cameras, which is staff level approval, which reduces it to a minimum number. Like if we're on brick, that would be, they'd be black, not white. You know, we wanna make them as like visually minimal as possible, so that's the goal. And, you know, modern cameras are now so much smaller than the old time. So, that's the strategy. You know, we wanna not make any unnecessary holes in the brick. Plenty of holes already, unfortunately, so we're gonna be undoing some of that. So that's the camera question.
Grandeur to the entrance.
Grandeur.
Grandeur.
Oh, I forget the species of this tree here. I'm sorry, this is faint. And for folks online, I'm putting to the bottom image by the Main Street entrance. Excavation in this area would probably mean the death of that tree. So we're holding off on, you know, messing with our canopy for now.
Thank you.
But, you know, I understand the point that was being made.
Well, I mean, it's more of a point. It's a 99-year, we're so glad you're here. But that entrance is not appropriate to the park and the grandeur of what it is. And that tree grew into that space. It doesn't mean that it can't be moved or adjusted or will work around. I really think it should be relooked at. My other question was lights on 21st Street where the banners are. Is any of the building going to be lit up? Kind of like they have on 9th Avenue now in the new building? And also, is there any going to be added lighting to the church?
Great question, thank you. So that is staff level approval, but we are gonna put some very quiet, very elegant lighting on the tower of the chapel, because that's such a beautiful architectural feature. So, you know, a little bit of uplighting up at the top where the arches are. Same thing for the south elevation of the chapel. There'll be a little bit of uplighting in the landscape. Again, this is all staff level approval. We're not lighting the banners. We're trying to shy away from anything too commercial, so.
Okay, and I would just say one thing. We're glad to have you here, and I'm glad you walked through with some of the board members. But I will tell you, to use the word, I don't like the sneakiness of saying that's the staff approval, because our board doesn't really like the staff approval new process. So you don't have to hide it from us. You should just tell us. That's all.
Okay.
We're so glad you're here. I'm really looking forward to it. It's amazing.
The meeting has taken some twists and turns. Can I just ask a question? I'm sorry, hold on. Carrie, you had your hand up at one time. Just want to see if Carrie wants to jump in. I
I'm
didn't see Carrie's
good.
hand up.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good. I just want to say thank you as well for being here. And there have always been gates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna pass it to David next. Oh, wait, hold on. Do you want to make a comment now or for David weighs in? Maybe I'm gonna do it now.
So you're
Go for
ready,
it now.
you already talked about solar, and I just want to jump on it again. I don't know whether the pole lights that you have around the campus are also capable of solar. They should be. You should be telling us that there will be as much solar on this campus as there can be. I don't know what you're telling us.
What we can tell you is we have our hands full with a long-term approach to decarbonizing the campus. Right now, we're on steam heat, we're burning natural gas at an incredible rate, doing, you know.
There was a geothermal that.
Geothermal serves two of the buildings, currently, but we still, a lot of the buildings are on the old GTS steam system. So our focus in terms of carbon footprint is really trying to move the building toward an all electrified system, which local law 97, if you all have heard about that, is going to move us toward, solar is important, but honestly, decarbonizing the building from a heating and cooling standpoint will be orders of magnitude better for the environment than the solar on the lights. So it's an all the above strategy, but we are singularly focused on that issue, and that's going to take some time. So solar, yes, but we have other things to deal with too, carbon wise.
Well, I mean, I agree, I'm pleased to hear that, I think that's a wonderful, position to take, what the lamps are going in now, and the buildings are gonna be longer term, if you can put solar on, that would be.
We're happy to study the feasibility of that.
Dave,
You know, on the security issue, those of us who are in waterfront parks and environment, right, can attest. Often hear from the Parks Department about difficulty closing the parks at night. They have their own staff go around to lock them up. And there's a separate group, called PEPs, park police, who can come in and help them if people don't want to leave. So I think it's probably really important, even if you loosen your policy to let more of the public in during the day, to be able to close and lock gates at night. As far as the banners go, I walked by today and took a close look. The buildings flanking the entrance, Seabury and Moore, they date from the 1930s and 50s. They're more modern, they have kind of modern 3/8" brick joints where I think you can conceivably put anchors without damaging the surrounding brick. But the buildings east and west are more historic, they have narrower brick joints, you wouldn't want to risk damaging that historic brick. And also, it's kind of a dramatic effect, those buttresses at the factory building, as you view them obliquely walking down the sidewalk. And I think the banners could be tracked from that, along with the greater risk of damage. I think if you had more banners flanking the entrance at Moore and Seabury, that could help direct people to where the actual entrance is. Security cameras, I think you ought to be able to, you should really show where they're gonna go and maybe have a little bit of a strategy for reducing damage to the brick from their penetrations. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
next, we have a public, I'm sorry, I just want to know if there's anybody public comment, sorry, Dave. I mean,
Mr. Chair, I just have one other thing I'd like to say when
Brad's
we're
got
ready.
his hand up still, so can we just hold for 1 second? Brad, go ahead, and I didn't know if anybody from the public wants to speak. Brad, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, I was wondering if you could let Vanderbilt know about the formerly First Black School that we've saved in the neighborhood? And would they be possible at looking at that to take that over as well as another part of the campus? It needs a lot of help.
Yes. Yeah.
And you guys are great neighbors. We look forward to you guys. But
Brad,
that's all I
it's on
gotta
the
say.
record.
Thank
I think
you.
we just heard that, thank you. On the record, David, go ahead, back to you.
You can always count on Brad to think big.
We got that, with grandeur. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to approve, keeping banners only on Seabury and Moore. Having the security camera locations indicated and a typical detail for how they would be anchored to minimize damage to the buildings. How you would minimize the number of penetrations for the corner sign. And what number those would be. I think it's a very good, well thought out scheme. So that's.
I heard something about study solar as well.
Oh, yes. How would you add that, Marty? Okay, study maximizing use of solar energy.
David, how many banners are we leaving them with your, like, they proposed 11, how many are we leaving them with?
Well, they would simply be limited in location to Seabury and Moore, which extend for what, about 50 feet north, east and west of the 21st Street entrance.
Right.
So I don't know if I got,
4 altogether?
sorry?
4 on each side.
2 on each building would be.
2 on each of those buildings, on Seabury and Moore.
Sure, we could. if we
That's
wanted
4
to
banners.
Get that specific.
Yeah, I think we should get that specific.
So the motion would be for 2 banners.
You guys are the designers now.
We're researchers, we're designers, go ahead.
Limit them on Seabury on the 2 sides. Because if they agree to take them off the 2 end buildings, I would let them. I agree. I would let them do that, do what they want. If they wanna put 4 on each side, on either side of the entrance, I would let them.
You mean, you're talking about banners on two buildings, that's gonna be a little crowded.
But that's, we're asking them to give up the ends, so
I'm gonna go back to the motion maker on this one. David, is anything you wanna say about the ban? Let's assume that
I
was
would leave it
a
up to them.
friendly amendment to go forward, but you're hearing maybe that's not the right number. What do
What
you
do
want?
they think?
I second David's motion.
Quick. Thank you for seconding. I had a question about the motion, so I understood what we were talking about. Thank you for jumping in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would limit the banners to those locations and not into designing it.
Okay, so no number,
Second.
limit design, second, Carrie second, hang on a second, we got a lot of seconds around the table, love it. All those in favor,
Discussion
This,
on
this
motion.
is motion support.
Discussion on motion.
I'm hearing discussion on the motion.
Please, I just want to be on record, I don't oppose these gates, seems to be the interpretation that I was in opposition to the gates, I'm not. I was not opposed to the gates on 20th Street, I'm just surprised that some members of this committee who have consistently said, bring things back to original condition, are in support of gates that were not original condition to allow access to a public green space. And that inconsistency is what I'm struggling with. I think what it's proposing is fantastic, I support it all, but I'm pointing out the inconsistency of some of the board.
But it's-
Paul, it's not public green space anymore.
Wait, we're in discussion at this point. So I just wanna make sure if we're gonna discuss, I wanna be able to, we can hear each other, okay?
But
But it's gotta be related to the motion.
yeah,
And that was not-
This conversation can happen, I think, right? After
Yeah.
after this vote, unless there's.
Well, the reason I raised it in terms of discussion of the motion is because the interpretation was that I was opposed to it, I'm gonna vote in favor of the motion.
Okay.
And I just wanted to clarify how my vote was coming through.
Clarification heard by this audience. That also triggered if there's discussion on the motion. I see Mike Noble's hand is up.
No, that's in favor of the motion.
All right, sir.
I'm early. I'm jumping the gun.
Early voting.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Can I make a zoning clarification?
I would love for you to hold on.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, discussion on the motion?
No, voting yes.
Oh, well, you're right. Guys, all those in favor, and you gotta be on camera so I can see you vote, by the way. I'm not calling it.
I'm not seeing you, one. Yeah, that's everybody.
Yeah, it's fine, right?
Brad's hands up.
So, thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I
Hands
did
down,
not vote.
please.
I did not vote for the motion, Jesse. Just to be
I thought your
clear.
hand- Okay, sorry, your hand was not up, okay.
Oh, I thought, okay, all right, so all those opposed? Thank you.
No, wait, he did that last time. Brad, so you're voting in opposition now.
Correct, I like the banners.
Got it, okay.
Got it, okay, thank you, Brad, it was hard to see, okay.
Greg, would you
any-
mind just saying, because we can't see the room, so would you mind saying who was, how many were opposed?
Sure, there's everybody in the room voted for the motion.
Okay, thanks.
Abstentions, well, we got everybody now, I guess, right? Abstentions.
Yeah.
P&Es?
They're not getting.
Okay, I believe, well, Jesse tallies the vote, you had a comment to make, feel free now, I just want to get through the voting process.
Very quickly, the zoning is only gonna permit one banner per building, so we'd only get one Seabury and one Ward. Hoffman is different because that's in a commercial zoning overlay, that's why we have 3 banners there, because that is permitted. So if you limit it to more in Seabury, you are effectively limiting us to only 2 banners. Which is, we're going from 11 to 2, so.
Make them
yeah.
bigger.
Also not permitted by.
Okay, wait, hold on,
I want to say something to that.
wait, you know what, hold on, I wanna get the count, we did the vote,
Yeah, no,
let's get the
the
count,
motion passed, the motion.
the
passed.
motion has passed.
We
Yeah.
didn't have all the information.
Congratulations and thank you, the motion has passed.
Okay, I just wanted to say, if you put mock-ups of those banners in those locations, just the 2, and go to 9th Avenue and go to 10th Avenue and look down the block, see if you see the banners. No, I bet you do. Bet you will.
That's, I was just clarifying
Yeah,
that there weren't more than 2 allowed.
Yeah, okay.
And I would suggest you go to DOT and ask them for permission to do a freestanding bollard on
Yes.
9th Avenue, free of the building, not having anything to do with Brodsky's thing there. And with signage on it, pointing the way.
Good luck with Christine on that one.
They better not say no, and I say.
Okay, on that note, because we have another presentation, I think now is a great time to offer some applause and thanks.
Thank you.
In favor or opposed, we appreciate the presentation. Thank you so much. Fill your pockets with candy on the way out.
We have was a night before.
Talk to him.
Speaker,
Talk to him.
who will be citing at East and Clarkmore Park.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We much appreciated for your presentation. In favor or opposed, detailed presentation. We are now switching to our next presentation on 130 to 132 West 18th Street. This is all about a vertical extension. 18th, what did I say?
16.
I was close. 130 to 132 West 18th Street, thank you. This is regarding a vertical extension. Once again, thank you to Pam and Dave for their efforts to help prep us for this conversation. Can't wait to dig in, and thank you once again, everybody. Have a great night, be well, be safe, stay warm, and say happy holiday season. Jesse, if you want to tee them up when they're ready, we will dig in. Sure. In round 2.
Corey, you ready to go? Is there anybody else that you need for me to bring over?
Yeah, I think Justin, who is our structural engineer, should be there too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I got him.
And also Mike Bartlett, who is our client, if he's also online, that would be great. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for your time, and I apologize not being there in person. Can you see my screen?
You can.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I will also try to run very quickly. As it's mentioned, this is for a vertical extension for 130, 132 18th Street.
131.
130, 132.
131. Got it, yeah.
Yeah, the building itself is a designated historical landmark. It is 2 carriage houses that were combined as one unit. That's why it's 130, 132. The building itself is between 6th and 7th Avenue on 18th Street. We are part of zoning C62A. Currently, it has the ground floor and first floor. Ground floor is 3,700 square foot, and in the first floor, there's 3,390 square foot of space. It is owned by our client Sarazi, who is an artist and who's using it as an artist studio, and it's a live workspace. What we are asking for is to do a vertical extension to the building itself.
Excuse me, pause for 1 second. We have a question in the room just about the slide. Go back to the last slide. Yeah, that one right there. We have a question about the slide itself.
Can you tell us what the distinction is between the red lines and the black lines that seem to encircle some of the blocks? What are those areas? Is it zoning?
Zoning, yes, it comes from zoning.
And the red must be the historic district then?
No, there's no historic district. I will show it to you. I think they are the avenues.
There is, yeah, these buildings are actually west of the Ladies Mile Historic District, and it's a number of individual landmarks.
Thank you.
No problem. This shows that this next slide, there's actually a series of individual landmark carriage houses in the street, but they are not part of the district. They are individually designated. As you can see, some of them here in the picture, there's 9 of them survived, and 3 of them has a second floor already in them, but they were already approved as a part of their landmark status. The building itself is built as part of the entire block between 1864 to 1866 as a private carriage house. And then it was combined in 1907 to become a garage. So the earliest photo that you can find on the left is from 1939, which shows it already being a garage where the 2 buildings were joined, and the middle part had the large openings and the large openings on either side. We also have the landmark designation photo on the right, which is from 1990. The building itself was bought in 1976 by artist Tom Doyley and artist Jane Mirror. Their artist couple, Tom was a sculptor and Jane a weaving and textile artist. And from 1976 till 2021, they actually used this as their artist studio and lived there, a part of it. The building was sold in 2021 to our client Serzi, and currently she's using it as an artist studio too. And the building, as of now, has been an artist studio for 50 years. This is as you can see in the middle is our building. On the left is one of the other carriage houses. That's also two carriage houses joined. Currently, downstairs is a restaurant, and this was renovated a couple of years ago, approved by the landmarks. The building on the right is not landmark. Currently, there is a construction. A theater is moving in there. The demolition is completed. They are, I think, starting framing in a couple of weeks. So the dashed line that you see here is actually what the building will look like, and we are going to show it in the renderings. But to the right of it, as you can see, there's also another carriage house. Currently, our client is using it as an artist studio, but the way her practice is evolving, actually the space itself is not really enough. And this vertical extension will be really helpful for her to expand the studio so that she can stay here. Just a brief introduction to our studio. Serzi does large-scale sculptures and public work. Some of her work is here. The one on the top left is the Second Avenue Subway Station Commission from 2017. The one on the right you see is from 2020, the monumental permanent installation at LaGuardia Airport. The one on the top left is for Storm King, and in 2023, she had a retrospective in Guggenheim, and the image you see in the middle is from that. As you can see, the work is very complex and needs a lot of space, and because it's also so complex, it is usually built, a lot of big markups are built in the studio itself. She really loves the building and also the neighborhood, and I believe she's one of the very few artists who can afford to still have their practice in the middle of the city and still be able to do a large scale, but unfortunately the building itself is not enough anymore. I just want to walk you through the existing conditions and what we are trying to do. This shows on the left is the ground floor, on the right is the first floor. The ground floor has two doors on opposite sides. You can see, you see also in the pictures, the garage door is in the towards the left, and there's two other large openings which are now glass. As you enter inside, the ground floor is for production and doing big installation markups. During their move-in period in 2023, they did a light renovation where they created the double height space for the height that they need. And then when you go upstairs, the upstairs is a painting studio, and the back part is the living space. And they are also they are very committed to the building to use it as artist studio, and they are also in the process of getting their artist certification from Culture Affairs for this building. What you see here is the zoning analysis. The building itself, per zoning, can actually, if it had the front facade, can go as high as 120 feet. Obviously, we cannot do it because it's a designated landmark. But if we were to put a one-story addition, we can. The second lower box that you see here is for the one-story addition limits. It can go up to 60 feet, but it does need a 30 feet setback from the back. And currently what you see here in the angled section is half of that portion that we are trying to capture to expand the studio. Obviously, this is an artist and has been for 50 years, and it is north facing. So the first, really the biggest inspiration for us is the artist studio Northern Lights that has been around in West Village and Greenwich Village for a long time. These are some of the examples of those northern facing artist studio lights that are really inspiration for our projects. of course, one of the biggest examples of this use, and that's itself very visible with the original architecture, is the Cooper Union, where the top floor artist studios have these angled north-facing skylights, which was really the inspiration. We also looked at other Courage House additions. There are some substantial ones that were approved by the landmarks. Some of them had visible elements like the railing, as you can see on the left. And on the right, which is also an artist studio in Brooklyn, the addition itself is not visible from the front, but it faces to the park in the back, and it's visible from the back, and it got recently approved. These are also just few other examples about how north-facing lights has been an example in the neighborhood and in downtown. The one on 46 Horatio Street is actually a new application that was approved, and that's visible from the street, which is very similar to what we are trying to achieve. So this is our proposal for our addition. There are a couple of things that we are doing in the facade. The facade itself on the right at the entrance was covered with metal. We pulled the metal pins and realized that actually the brick and the arch is there. So we are aiming to return it back to its original shape, the door. The openings themselves, two of the openings were lower and one of them was higher. It looked very mismatched. And we really wanted to keep the bottom line of the large openings on the other Courage House on adjacent sides. So we are raising two of the openings to match the other one so that at least there's a nice symmetry and composition for the building. The wood frames and the medallion and the windows frames will be painted a darker red than the brick itself by the recommendation of the landmark. And there are three actual windows here that doesn't have the original window mullions that we are actually turning back to the original. At the top you see is our north-facing skylight that will provide the addition for the project. It is itself a little bit of a really tight kind of a puzzle we try to achieve with this. She does need her second floor to be work full-time is for her sculpture practice. So the ground floor and second floor, we are doing very minimal. We are just going to do some surgical interventions to bring a second egress stair, which is towards the back, right at the edge of the 30 feet setback. At the front, we still keep the staircase, the structure columns and the structure beams are all being kept. Behind the staircase, we are inserting a new elevator for future. And then when you come upstairs, the stair itself will turn around and we are putting another stair on top of the existing one just to make, to have the egress staircase to have a certain distance from them and to be able to capture space that she needs. So this is the second floor. It's an open floor space, and the back staircase itself will also go up to a mezzanine, and that will provide her the sleeping area. So for a total of approximately, we are asking to expand 2,700 square foot, which is less than what she has currently on her first floor space. This is the existing studio. You can see the big markups being done for the artwork on the right and her painting studio on the left. We are, as I said, we are keeping the columns and as much as of the structure possible, but where we had to put new structure, we did structural analysis of the foundation and the brick walls on the side. We don't want to, we want to have a light touch structurally on top of it. So our structural engineer proposed that the only way to do that will be to use a mass timber CLT construction, which is actually for in sustainability point of view a really great thing. But one restriction there is that the beam depths got really it got deeper. That's also a part of why the bulk is higher. There's two parts in the design that really kind of restrict our moves. One of them is the new staircase itself need to have a head height. We are pushing back the northern skylight part 10 feet, but it does come 4 feet 3.5 inches higher than the viewing platform. But also at the same time, another restriction we have is that on the other parts of on the west side of the staircase, the client also really desires to have a head height so that they can see through and get light. So those are the restrictions that gave us the form that we have right now. The mechanical equipment and all the other plumbing parts will be hidden in the back, so it's only the kind of the facade that you are seeing in the renderings. This is the current elevation. As you can see, there's one garage door next to it. The lower two openings, they do have large metal garage doors outside and glass infill. We really want to clean it up and make it look more elegant, so we are raising the two openings to align with the other one. The middle section will be fixed glass. The one on the right has to stay operable because of large crates going in and out, so we wanted to mirror it on the other side so that it's symmetrical. We are also restoring the columns on either side of the middle section. And in this drawing, we are also showing on the right the new theater building since it's under construction. This is the two elevations next to each other. Because the fire escape is not in the original condition, the landmarks also recommended that we can remove it, so we are actually going to remove it and keep the facade as clean as possible. This is a view where you can see how high it goes. We do also have to have solar panels on the roof. We currently have the mock-up, and the solar panels also will not be visible from the street. This is the rendering on the right, and on the left, the mock-up. There's a change in the mock-up. Last week, we met with two of the board members and also with the landmarks. We were originally wanted to have a front deck and railing, but the client decided to remove that per recommendations. We also looked at our section, so the mock-up itself actually is slightly higher than what we have here, which I will show you later in the mock-up images which I took today. This is from the side. The addition itself will not be visible as you are walking from either side because of the two-story or the third story on either side of the building. Some of the details we are really kind of to take clue from adjacent building which was approved by landmarks. The doors will have the similar treatment and also the arch windows above. The columns will be repaired and painted. Ours have a slightly different condition. It's actually set inside proud, not into the columns, so we are keeping it as it is. And this is the color palette that we have. The brick will be cleaned, kept in original. The paint is one tone darker than the brick itself, and we are using zinc-coated metal panels, which was a recommendation from landmarks for the metal framing and also for the northern facing facade. These are our details. The one on the left is the restoration of the wood doors with the glass inside. The one on the middle is the fixed window. behind it, you can see at the side of the column. The side of the column is actually flat, so it will be just painted, but it will be extended out till the opening. And there will be a small metal trim at the top just to cover it because it projects out from the facade. And to the right of it is the pivot doors. Their mullions will align with the middle fixed window. These are currently the markup from today. There's a red tape on where the building height currently is, but it was not visible from the photo, so we also put these red lines in these drawings. But if you go there, you will see the height. The red line that you see here is for the current height. And again, just want to mention that it is really the client's intention. She is a big part of the cultural landscape of New York City, and she does associate a lot with the neighborhood, and she wants to stay here and continue working and be a part of the cultural landscape of the neighborhood. And this edition will really help her to stay here for a long time and continue to keep the building as an artist studio. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start with questions in the room, and then we'll go online. Questions from committee members? Katie.
Thanks for the presentation. I'll confess, I'm a little confused. I know you said that she needs more art studio space if possible. But it looks like where the extra on the third floor that it's closed off mostly to the floors below, so it's not actually giving her more. Certainly, it's not giving her more vertical space for the big projects, or is some of it open and I just missed that? I guess I'm just not sure how the new space would be used for the art.
So the addition that you're asking will be her painting studio. And then the second floor will be given into the sculpture. She actually does like to paint. When she does painting, she's by herself, and her crew works in the sculpture in the ground floor. But because the ground floor needed a double height space, they actually break through to create one area as a double height space. So for her painting studio, she does prefer it to be more private. But because we are getting an artist certification, the staircases hopefully will be open, so they won't be enclosed, and that will create some visual communication between them.
So right now, the painting is mixed with the sculpture. You
Yeah.
should separate the painting studio to the third floor,
Okay.
and then first and second floor would be completely dedicated to sculpture.
She also wants to maintain to live there to sleep. I mean, she has another apartment, but she does sometimes works late, and she does want to keep the residential component of it, which is within it's in the CFO, but that will go into the mezzanine.
Okay. And I believe you said that she is teaching some classes, or there are other people invited into some of the painting space. Would they be invited into the new space or no? Or that's just for her?
That's actually Michael Cook, if you would like to.
I'm sorry, that's a lot.
The other guest online.
Oh.
Mike is Sarah's studio manager. Sorry, he's our client. So I will let Mike answer it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mike Barnett.
Mike, it's very hard to hear you, Mike.
Can you hear me? Hold on.
A little bit more, Mike. A little bit better. Here we go. Oh, you're on mute now. I really can't hear you. Muted?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Mike Barnett. I'm Sarah's studio manager. I've worked with her for about 23 years. And the question was about just her painting practice versus sculpture practice, correct?
Or the use of the new space.
Yeah. So
The new third floor, if it's built, would it just
that
be
would
for
be
her use?
solely devoted to her painting practice, which is something where she only wants to work alone in the studio without any distractions. So we have a team of like 6 to 8 people that work in the studio on all of the sculptural projects, the public projects that we're working on. We're working on, 8 to 10 projects at a time. But her painting practice, which is sort of become, I'd say more of a focus in the last 5 years, is something that she likes to do alone, without distraction. So the third floor would be solely devoted to that. And the double height space and the other areas of the studio would remain as a sculpture and shop areas.
Thank you.
Got it. Pamela.
Yeah. Hi, well, thank you for this. This is really a very important piece of history for our neighborhood, and I want to be sure that we get this right. Starting, I have a lot of issues to bring up, but starting with the street facing facade, the center window, the big large opening, that's a fixed window. That's not an operable door.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm very concerned that the asymmetry between that and the building to the east of you, which still has the original division that fell directly down the middle of that space with the arched openings on either side, is the classic look of this building. Is there any reason not to try to restore that look, to restore the symmetry between them? That's one question. I'm aware that there have been structural changes interior that got rid of the wall between the two buildings at that level, and that there's a lot of support structural members there. I think I understand that. I'm going to talk about the lintel, what I would call the water table, across at the feature across above all three of those openings. I'm trying to discern whether or not there is original fabric that will be removed in your raising those two windows up to that level. And will they match exactly the band that runs across the building to the east, the two buildings to the east of you? I'm concerned about that. I'm delighted that you find that the entry on the western door exists in back of the metal. That building is pretty much a mess as you see it now, with all that metal stuff in the face of it. And I'm very pleased that it's being restored, that entry, and that the cast iron columns will be retained and restored as well. I have one more question, which has to do with the neighbor to the east. And we discussed this in our meeting earlier. At that time, I was told that there was a west-facing bedroom window on that third floor. I am now told that that is not the case, and there is no window there. But what there is a vent that vents a bathroom, and that vent falls just about in the middle of where I think where the elevator shaft is to go. Have you been in touch with that neighbor? And if not, and if you need any help with that, I can provide contact information for that owner. I see you laughing.
No, Sarah has been very, very proactive with the neighbors. Absolutely, if you don't hear from them, we will let you know. That van, let's start from the last question. That the van itself is actually illegal. It's a lot line that they are actually they are exhausting towards Sarah's lot, our lot. It actually needs to go directly up to through the roof, and it's in a place that it won't be visible from the street. So it was, I think, a grandfather thing that nobody really thought about. So I don't see any problem that being resolved for it to go directly to the roof. And Sarah also has been very kind enough for the theater on the right to that building itself is actually also going to put a lot of weight on the existing brick wall. That's why actually we are using CLT, because they are using a big chunk of it, but because it's culturally a nice, we are also losing theater. So Sarah was very cooperative with them for that to happen. And I'm sure, she can figure it out with the restaurant. But thank you. Going back to your first question, so I think it being an artist studio, there's one issue that they are facing, which is getting enough light. The ground floor is it goes all the way to the end lot line, and it doesn't get enough light. So to lose light for her is actually something that we talked about it. She really needs it. It's important for the practice. The other thing is that the building itself was really things were already taken out. We did do an investigation behind those, the plaster areas. There's nothing. We look from inside. There's no historical fabric there. So it's almost like there was a kind of a addition done to the facade, but it was done like not sensitively. We are trying to correct that in a way. And I think it's, the kind of a modern approach to it seems something that is right specifically for this building.
Okay, other questions in the room? Dave?
Could we go to the view of the existing facade?
This one or the larger one you prefer?
This is okay. You can see how the kind of garage door on the right has a much higher top of the opening than the ones to the left. And it appears to me that it actually bites into that lintel course, that kind of horizontal band of stone that originally ran across the fronts of all of the stable buildings. And it looks like what you're doing is not just raising the two large openings to its left up to the bottom of that horizontal piece of stone, but up to the height of the existing opening on the right. So those two will bump out of the top of the opening. And there will be a loss of historic fabric, and more importantly, a loss of the detail of the historic composition. Is that correct?
No, I mean, that's a good point, Dave. I mean, we wouldn't want to raise the existing historical one. If anything, maybe we can lower it so that it matches the line of the other, and then just like the match the line.
Since you're replacing the doors on the right, why wouldn't you just lower the head of the door on the right so that you could maintain the historic height of that band all the way across?
The only thing that I was going to say is that I will maybe go here. I think the height on the other carriage houses is higher for the larger openings. So we really thought that it would be good to keep that, the length of that was our idea. If we were to lower ours, that won't match the line of the other carriage houses.
Okay, that horizontal band itself, how tall is it on the left?
The one on
the neighboring building to the east.
On the neighboring building, or
yeah, it looks to me like the band itself is taller than what you're proposing on the right.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear. What we are proposing is higher than the one on the left. Is that?
The current opening on the right on your building goes up, it bites more out of that horizontal band than the big openings on your neighboring buildings. It looks like when they, at some point, they enlarged that opening and they raised the top of it so that it eats more out of that horizontal stone band. I think you can see it on some of the photographs, where you can see both the existing condition of your building and the next building.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think that that is just the nature of how those photos were collaged together. The band itself, I think, is at the same height.
Just to be clear also, if it is not, our intention is to make it the same height, we will correct our drawings definitely to keep the datum line.
Could we go to the photograph of the existing condition, the closest one you've got of your facade? You know, it's hard to tell because it's kind of reddish like the brick, but I think, you know, it's you know, it's raised from what the original opening there would have been. You can, I think you can even kind of see that the spandrel under the upper windows is shorter where this opening is. I'm just concerned that, you know, that was a little bit of a violation of the original condition and ate away some historic fabric, and now you're going to eat away more by having these two enlarged openings go up that far instead of lowering the one on the right to where it originally was and having the others match that. And I think Paola raised a very good point about that here. I understand it's important to Sarah for natural light, but it's such a fundamental thing about these buildings. You know, they're all about this rhythm. And it's a narrow opening, a wide opening, a narrow opening for each one. And as you read them as a row, it's an ABA rhythm, ABA, ABA, and then it's ABBA. Someone who was legally blind could kind of see that that had been lost. If that pier could be put back in, that would really be a wonderful thing. And, you know, we get all sorts of proposals for rooftop additions for row houses, and the applicants always take care to make sure that the addition isn't visible from the opposite sidewalk. That's very much a standard practice for landmarks to approve only what isn't visible from the opposite sidewalk. And if we go back to your building section. You know, it shows how close you are to having this addition be invisible from the sidewalk. And you talk a little bit about the need for headroom under the front part. I mean, the rear living part that's being added is actually 2 stories. You know, couldn't it just follow this line? I mean, that's actually not something we ordinarily encourage. We try to discourage rooftop additions because what happens is that historic buildings are bought and then treated as development sites to add a lot of square footage to. Landmarks technically has purview over not only the facade, but the roof and the rear facade of the building. And we've increasingly been trying to get them to preserve those so that the buildings don't become like development sites. So, you know, I would submit that we might accept something that wasn't visible from the opposite sidewalk if that central pier could be reintroduced. You know, I appreciate that Sarah needs more space for what she's doing in her growing practice. But there's a lot more that could be built that could be out of sight. You know, if everyone who buys a building and then outgrows it in a historic district enlarges the building, you know, over time incrementally, the building is just going to get huge. And I think the practice, the policy that landmarks has of not approving rooftop additions on row houses that are visible from the opposite sidewalk applies even more to this building because the addition is proportionally a greater impact on the building, and the addition is actually closer to eye level as you're walking down the street. So, you know, I think I'd like to make a motion.
I think there's other questions, Dave. I think let's let other folks ask their questions. I want to give them a chance to respond if they have any thoughts or reactions to what you're saying. And then I do want to give other folks an opportunity if we haven't had the chance to hear.
The only thing that I was just going to say, I mean, yes, we can raise it, but we did, I mean, this was not, there was a lot of studies done about that. With this one, she's just capturing a portion of what she has in her first floor. When it goes lower, it just becomes a very small part. It is just not, something that will just be adequate. So we are trying to we are aware that we are being visible. That's why we are, trying to make it as a part of the fabric as possible. And this is also a unique condition because it is an artist studio. It's facing north, so we thought it will be an appropriate. If anything, this will be an appropriate visible addition.
Paul, go ahead.
Can we go, I want to get some clarification on the slide 6 of the existing conditions. You can go back to that slide for me, please. To David's point about the entryways, you have the 3 gray entrances. The one on the far right is the one that you're proposing stay at that height, and the other 2 you're proposing raise to the height of the third one. So the question I have is, are the bricks above those 2 entrances to the left, the 2 big gray entrances, you're gonna make that space there, the brick just above that, between that and the lintel that runs across, are those original bricks or are those? Because the question I have looking at these, the building to the east looks like those bigger windows and entrances do go all the way up to the lintel.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if those bricks are original, if they're gonna be removing original fabric, or if they're actually taking out something that was done in the 1950s, in which case I would support having, I would think that David's point of the center having the 2 arched entries, maybe you could have them just be all glass with a column in between to allow the light in. So you'd have the 130, I think is that address. You would have a door and then a wide entry, and then you would have 2 smaller glass framed with the arch to mimic the building to the east. And then another large, yeah, exactly. And then have glass, you could have the arch top and the glass, and it could go pretty high. And you would basically put a column in so that the repetition of the design would be consistent. But then you would have enough glass to let some light in. And again, I don't know that you're removing original fabric by taking the bricks out above those 2 gray doors, and I don't know, that's the question. And then to David's point about the sight line, I mean, I would think if we could reduce the ceiling height by 4 feet, we would be within the sight line, and it would allow for enough natural light to come in through the top of that without having to have a violation of the standards of LPC. So could you reduce the ceiling by 4 feet? And is there a possibility to insert 2 arched column entryway glass panels in the center?
And are those parts original?
And are the bricks originally appearing?
I mean, just to answer one part of it, this part is actually not, I mean, there's nothing behind. This part is also, I'm not sure about it, we can take a look at that up, so we don't want to remove anything there, but we did look at behind here too, there was things were removed, we have photos of those. But I make the note of your, recommendations about bringing the middle part and creating the arches.
Yeah, separate from the loss or not of the historic fabric brick. You've got the height of the large openings, and your large opening on the right, the existing one that was put in years ago, is clearly taller than the historic large openings on the ground floor at the center of each of the former stables. And it's where it carved away was where that horizontal white band of probably originally limestone between the first and second floors are, and that's what we would want to see replicated both in the right and left opening on your building. So the right opening would become a little shorter, and the left opening would not go up as high as the current right opening, so that datum line of the horizontal white lintel would could be restored on your building, and then at the center, introduce a pier with an arch top opening, narrow opening, like what you have between the two buildings to your east. Yes.
David, can I ask a clarifying question about that? Are you saying though that the windows on the right, on the new building, if we approve it, can be as tall at least as the ones to the east?
Yes, I know folks at home can't see this, but I think.
Just want to make sure I understand what you're proposing.
Yeah, talk it through as best you can.
Imagine this is this building, and we're gonna alter it to be exactly like this one. We end up actually raising this and biting into this white line, which is why this dimension is clearly larger than this one.
You're saying the white limestone is clearly larger than the red brick on,
Yeah, and originally there would have been that white
okay,
lintel line running across, and its bottom would have been a little bit lower
right.
than the top of the existing opening on the right, and you can see that when you walk past the facade.
But it sounds like you're saying if they agreed, which I thought they said they did, but I could be wrong, of having the lintel the same width and height as the one on the building to the east. And then all three of the windows, or however many windows there are, can be as high as the building to the east. Yeah,
That would be our ideal.
okay.
What we would
Okay,
say,
just wanted to
I
understand.
think one thing we would say is the large opening on the left should not be raised to match the height of the larger opening on the right, because it's higher than it originally was.
I understand. Okay.
Brad, I see Brad's hand is up. Brad, you wanna jump in?
They're saying.
Yes. So if you guys look at the building all the way on the right.
Maintain.
Yeah.
Hello?
Sorry, Brad, do that one more time, we lost you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The way I read it, Chair, is that if you look at the building all the way on the right, the black one,
Yeah.
you see the lintel and then the window goes all the way up, which matches the east building. So I don't have a problem with all of them going up and matching across. I like David and Pamela's idea of a pier in the middle with two higher windows there. Then it all matches up. And as far as the setback goes, Paul, I'm in full agreement. We don't approve if you can see it from the street. And I don't know why we would ever change that. I love that she's in the neighborhood. We're all for that. We love owner occupied, but we don't ever vote to see it from the street. Not since I've been on the board for 12 years. But one thing that could be done, Paul, is they have the glass and then part of the roof sets back the glass that gives her the same light. So that's my 2 cents. And we didn't discuss lighting like we normally do or signage. And also, is there going to be a flagpole with a banner? Usually those are all discussed.
There's no flag or banners or sign. The only thing is that the adjacent restaurant has lights on the sidewalk that illuminates up the columns. That's something actually Sarah really likes, but Landmarks told us that that's not part of their review, so we actually didn't show that.
Right,
Okay.
but the lights are going to go up the columns. Again, David, here's our board review to our review. But you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, if you look at the black building, it goes right below the window, and it comes all the way across to the matching the east, which I'm for. And if we get the column in the middle, that's going to look good.
Definitely some nodding in the room as you were speaking, Brad. Other questions? Oh, Paul has a hand
Can I
up.
make a motion?
I think it's time. Let's do it.
All right. I would suggest that we deny unless they make the building consistent with the buildings to the east and the west, with the windows and entrances only as high as the lintels across the block, Second is that they insert arched glass windows in the center to mimic the building to the east. And third is that they lower the roof line by 4 feet to abide by the LPC sightline restrictions.
Do we have a second on that motion?
Discussion?
We have to have a second before we have discussion.
I'll
Yeah.
second it.
Second, now discuss. Discussion on the motion.
Yeah, I mean, is this I would say it's a reject unless those things are done.
That's what I said.
Deny and
I'm
less.
sorry.
You
Deny and
said
less.
deny this.
Deny and less. Carrie, you have discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I have a question about why we need the building to look exactly like the neighbor building. Like, if you look at the historic pictures, it has 3 days. So does the one they're proposing. I'm in favor of raising those windows, creating that lintel across, all 3 buildings, even though they're not completely adjacent. I agree with you about the sight lines, but I'm not sure why we're forcing them to put in like 2 more arched windows when that's not what was there.
Right, it's what was there originally.
Isn't this
And,
picture right here that we're all, am I looking, I don't know if I'm looking at the same
That
thing?
picture's from that, sorry. the
I mean,
picture that you had
just to
twice.
clarify,
Let him answer.
it is for landmarks, this is the designated photo. So for landmarks, if we were to keep these opening as it is
Right.
approved, yes.
Oh, there it is.
It's
Okay.
also down there.
So I just don't know why, I mean, David, you can convince me otherwise, but like, why does it have to match? Like, I actually like it. I think it's kind of cool that it doesn't
And,
match.
sometimes we do, say, don't correct something, like actually, another owner of one of these stables came before us recently with a window replacement job. And
remember,
what's called
yeah.
the bullseye rondel thing is off a little bit. It's quirky, it's, something that shows the age of the building in an interesting way, that it's been through some things. But in this case, it's such a fundamental violation of the original compositional idea of the building, as I said, that kind of ABA rhythm. And that's the beauty and the music of the row. And this is one of only 2 matching rows of stable buildings in all of Manhattan. The others at Sniffen Court and Murray Hill. And it's such a fundamental loss. Goethe said, architecture is frozen music, and the music of this row was ABA. That's why I would want to put it back. It's something, that renewal is something a landmarks commission would never in a million years have allowed before.
I'm gonna let Brad jump in. I see Brad's hand came up. Discussion on the motion, Brad? Look. Maybe not. Brad's hand is down.
I have a motion and a second.
There is a motion and a second. I think we've had discussion.
Well, Carrie's hand is still.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Carrie's hand is down. We've had motion, we've had discussion on the motion. We have a second. I think we're prepared to vote at this point. Do you want to restate the motion?
It's a motion to deny unless these 3 conditions are met. First is that make the building consistent with the buildings to the east and the west, with windows and entrances only as high as the lintels. Second is to insert arched glass windows in the center row to mimic the building to the east. And third is to lower the roof line by 4 feet to abide by the LPC sightline restrictions.
All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Online as well. Need to see it.
Can you, Corey, can you stop sharing?
Oh, yeah, we need to see everybody. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, Brad, you're in favor of the motion. Got it, thank you.
You have your count?
Yes, I got it.
All those opposed, all right, hands down. All those opposed. Got your count?
Yep.
Any abstentions? Guys count?
No.
Petings, President Hill. Okay,
Motion passed.
the motion has passed. What is this, do we have any specific guidance for these guys at this point? Jesse, is there anything particular?
No, so, the motion is passed, the letter will be drafted, the recommendation letter will be drafted, it will be prepared for the next full board, which is, first Wednesday in December. The Friday before that, the, letter will be posted on our website. I'll obviously make sure you guys get a copy of the letter, so you know what's in the letter. you're more than welcome to attend the full board, but you're not expected to present or provide any answers or questions, so you're not expected to speak at all, but you're more than welcome to attend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We really do appreciate it.
I saw Jesse
Thoughtful and meaningful. What?
You're welcome to speak if they. At the public session, yeah.
At the public session, you can speak if you want to at the meeting in December.
Yeah.
On that note, we have finished our two presentations and we're now on old new business. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to extend this meeting.
Thank you,
any
thank you,
longer.
gentlemen.
So-
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I just want to pose a question that I don't mean to have one answer now. I just want to. I just
Oh,
think that.
now, Jesse,
No,
that
no,
never
no,
works, but go ahead.
For those of us who are new members, I am a new member and there's several of us, the reason that I felt I needed to abstain on that is I don't think I fully understand what our role is, because I haven't learned that yet. Like, to me, I don't know what the criteria we're using, I don't know, it seemed very much like that was just based on our own aesthetic, like choices and feelings, and which may or may not be accurate, but I would love potentially, I guess I'm asking for like a presentation or like some sort of discussion or training for those of us who are new to this committee, so that I can get a better understanding of the history and exactly what our role is and what role we play, because I think I was confused by that last conversation.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Second, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that, and I do think we could all benefit from a number of different refresher courses. I just want to say, to your point, I appreciate the effort that this body makes to talk about history. And also, we need to be respectful that we're all learning in real time in some ways about what works. So Jesse heard, and I'm happy as chair to figure out ways in which we can help each other learn and get up to speed. Brad's hand came up while that was being discussed. Brad, you want to weigh in?
Jesse, it's a good point, and we've been on here for a while and we've been through a couple chairs. But in reality, it does, we try to do what landmarks ask, right? So here, Jesse, they're never allowed to have the glass or anything showing from the street. That's just the code. And what they were asking for is a waiver. So that's why we said push the facade back so we don't hear from the street. And this board, you'll see there's certain members that are definitely have the history and like to really go back to the original. And we try to get a balance here to what we think fits the community, but we do really try to adhere to the historical part of things. And of course, in the meeting, you should just ask us. That's what we're here for, like in the meeting, so you can understand.
So that I'm gonna suggest.
And then the next weed meeting I go to, I'll ask you the same questions. He's gone? Oh, no.
No.
I'm off the grass, I'm off the grass.
Okay.
But Brad, to your point, let's just amongst ourselves, let's agree. It is absolutely beneficial to ask questions of each other.
Exactly.
And also the benefit of having content that folks have read or absorbed or thought about in advance just helps us all be prepared for questions, because sometimes it's just hard in the moment to ask, or sometimes there's new stuff coming up that we just don't have history on. I'm very grateful to be part of a committee that has as much history as it has, and we should be very grateful we have new membership as well. So let's work to keep each other up to speed. Any other items?
Not all of us are architects.
You're right.
Yeah.
Not all of us. My mother always wanted me to be a lawyer, not an architect. Go ahead.
So the entire duration of the presentation, the presenter had his hand in front of his mouth, and I thought he was holding the microphone. And therefore, I didn't want to say anything, but if people who speak do it like this, it's very hard to know what they're saying.
Yeah, amongst us, if
So
there's an
in
issue
the
with,
future,
Yeah.
when you see that, I didn't want to say anything, because I truly thought he must have a mic. And
He does.
well, he did.
Then he didn't.
Oh,
Then
yeah,
the
you
whole
have
last
to-
part, he didn't, and he didn't need to.
This whole.
So amongst us. Yeah, the mic is here, he was holding. Amongst us,
Yeah.
if ever there are audio issues, video issues, we need to call it out. So please don't feel shy about saying anyone, and you've been always good about noting sometimes about how we should hear each other. In that circumstance, I believe there were AirPod kind of, or headphone things, and the mic was here, and sometimes it was a little clearer than others, but I was picking up most of it, so I'm sorry for anyone in the room. who
Did
didn't
anybody else
hear.
have trouble following him?
No.
Because I did, and that's on me.
We need to do better. I accept feedback, so please tell me.
Pam, thank you.
Hold on one second, hold on.
Okay, so when somebody comes before us with a question like this, that means that they are, by definition, every single thing that they are presenting, they want a waiver. On every single issue, or not everything is a waiver.
No.
I don't think that, Jesse, what's your answer?
No, so yeah, I mean, historically, we have, you know, we could choose to do that. I mean, obviously, if there's a very large project that we can say, we have a consensus on, yes, this topic, or that component of the application, that component of the application, but we don't have consensus on another component of the application. But in general, what we do is, that what they're looking for is a waiver, an overall waiver of appropriateness from the Commission, the Landmarks Preservation Commission. And so we're giving them we're giving them a recommendation. We're sending a recommendation on that entire package. So there'll be stuff that's, you know, that's for the commission's review, and then there'll be what we've heard tonight, where you'll hear, there's the things that are staff review. Right, which are not from the commission, it's just done by the staff on the LPC.
Right, if you wanna do a window replacement on your rear elevation, you know, it's like a high profile thing, you can get that approved by staff at the Landmarks Commission without having to go before a public hearing. There's a whole range of things, and that's all elucidated in, you know, the landmarks rules. So if a building is in a historic district or it's an individual landmark, and you wanna make a change that goes beyond what staff can approve, you have to go before a public hearing of the Landmarks Commission. And any applicant who's going to do that has to come to us first, present to us in the community. And then we advise the Landmarks Commission. So they can ignore our advice.
They don't
Your advice,
You know, they don't always, but.
Along what criteria exactly? Like what criteria are we using to advise?
There actually are, Department of the Interior standards for historic preservation, which are separate from what the Landmarks Commission oversees. For example, those guidelines would govern the interior of a building. In New York, there are tens of thousands of landmark buildings, but it's only the exteriors that are landmark. There are only about 120 interior landmarks in the entire city. You know, but the Secretary of the Interior Standards, it's a kind of a national standard. The Landmarks Commission, simply in terms of what it tends to do or not do, varies from that a little bit. Interestingly, they're not supposed to consider use at all. So the fact that this was an artist studio and the artist wanted to stay in the neighborhood or an arts community, we're not supposed to pay any attention to that at all. You know, when people propose putting gates at the bottom of their stoops to keep homeless people from, you know, camping out on their stoops. That's an argument that the Landmarks Commission will listen to, but if we point out that there isn't a particular problem with homeless people on that street, they'll ignore it. And, you know, that it's like, well, why are you approving these gates? Because you think it's an improvement on the original architect's design? Well, no, it's obviously because the owner came and said he needs to keep homeless people on his stoop. So even though they say that purpose isn't supposed to make a difference, because the building could be sold next to somebody else who's going to use it in a different way. Just like you kind of get used to the way the commission works, and I've found actually waiting to read into testimony at Landmarks public hearings from our letters. You know, you always are advised to tune in maybe an hour early, so you're not late for that. You watch hearings on similar projects and you watch the commissioners debate. You kind of get a sense of the way this all works. And a lot of it is like what happens with us tonight, where it's like one person's opinion against another. It's a very fine-tuned kind of thing, and it's not impure. It's partly matters to the heart and the eye.
But it sounds like it would benefit us to watch the landmark.
Yes.
Like that would be.
Well, I think the other, yes, and, there's also I mean, it often comes up in our conversations about some sort of precedent that's existed within the committee.
And there are published standards, it sounds like.
And it sounds as if there are some, I need maybe you can point us in the direction of what specific types
For
of
sure, there
standards,
are standards, for sure.
right? Like, but I don't like what the specific standards are, and then how that relates to how this committee has interpreted those standards over time. Because during the course of this last couple hours, there was times, remember that Remember that
Like,
other place
yeah.
where that happened? Remember that other thing that?
Like
and that may or
sightline
may
is a
not be aligned.
sightline is a great standard, right? Like it is against the landmark rules, and we do not approve anybody going higher than the sightline from the street. That is a clear, consistent standard. So I think to David's point, some of the rest of it is people's opinions.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, you said that they sometimes ignore us, right, after we come up.
Yeah.
So I guess I was just wondering, like, percentage wise, like, do they ignore us 50% of the time? So, and for
90.
example, I guess 90, they ignore us a lot.
We have a running, well, we have a running number, but.
So, and I guess I was wondering, like, for example, tonight, the first letter we did, right, it had the 3 different points.
Yes.
And I was wondering, like, okay, so we make that recommendation, I assume. If they still want more than 2 banners, they want 7 banners or 9, but whatever they want. They could still ask for more banners, and the commission could say, absolutely, you can have 7, or whatever the number is, right? So I guess they could ignore us on part and agree on part.
We're on the advisory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true of all land use applications. We're doing just landmark preservation right now, but CPC takes some of our stuff and doesn't take some of our stuff. It's pretty much the same
Yeah.
across all
Yeah.
of the decisions we make. Somebody comes in and asks for something, and we give back feedback, and sometimes we support some things, sometimes we oppose other things, but then it goes to the next level, and they're the ones who make decisions.
Right.
It's a,
I think it's because I'm coming off of BLT where actually I do find that the state liquor authority is actually quite deferential to.
no, not here.
I think it helps to make.
Yes, does BP office have any training for LPC staff?
Yes, bro.
Do you
They
have-
probably do, but
I've never seen that training come across. But I will say, I think David's point is the one to listen to, which is, I think there's plenty to do for you guys. We can, maybe David and we can come up with Baron, we've got some very, and very smart people on this committee to come up with some sort of level of training we can do for everybody. But I do think at the end of the day, David's point is that it is about, it's about preservation, but it's not cut and dry. It's not like, does it meet a standard, it doesn't meet a standard. It's not like the zoning resolution, which has all these things that says, does it meet this, does it meet this? Well, if it does, then it gets approved, and if it doesn't, it doesn't get, like, it does come to a broader context of what does it mean to the neighborhood? What is the context next to the thing next door to it? What is the landmarks report that was originally drafted decades ago say about it? So it all, it's a broader conversation that is a lot about people's perception about what is preservation. So that's always just gonna be a normal conversation to have amongst each other.
And the philosophy of preservation changes over time. So in the 1980s, I worked on buildings that tried to look like the historic building next to them. And today you would never do that. You don't want to confuse matters and have people wondering which is the historic building. You want to do a building that matches the design quality of the historic building. But it has its own identity.
Here's disagreement in the room on that.
BP has in the past given land use courses. They had it split into 2.
Do seminars or something.
Right, so they split them into 2 because they were so big, years ago I took them. And the Historical Preservation Society has a lot of classes, which I've taken, almost every
So
one.
we can tag team.
LPC or
Yes,
LPC or.
yeah.
What goes?
That's kind of it's not necessarily like step-by-step guidelines, but
No,
general
you just keep
principles,
it in
like
very
things
different
to
classes.
focus on, understand
But the
those.
field, the Manhattan Borough President has in the
It's
past,
land use, but it's not preservation.
not preservation, but land use, but then the Historical Preservation Society and the other one.
Resource Council.
Yes.
Let's-
Council. I would
let's-
three classes.
What I
In the new year, we'll find a lot more work.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is,
A lot more stuff.
yeah, what I'm hearing is there's value in being able to do the information and background, that would be useful. What a great committee, come on, listen to us. Wait, Brad, did you have something to say? I saw your hand where you were adjourning.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. For next meeting for new business, because we are land use, and every city around the world is getting ready for drones and drone taxis We need to discuss land use wise on what our philosophy is, and then maybe present something to the bigger board, because we are really missing out. We are designing for horse stables, and we've got, you know, a completely new technology that's gonna take over, and we need to have a bigger plan. Jesse, one other thing, we could talk big visions, but one issue on this board, and you could weigh in yourself, is look, you have a brownstone and the person buys it and they want to expand out the rear. On this particular board, there's been a lot of fights going back to, well, what should we allow to go back, right? There's some people on the board that don't want to extend it. I'm one to let them extend, because we can't hold somebody, this person, where everybody else got approved for it in the past. But we've come to a compromise where we went, you know what? Let him extend to where the old tea house was. That's kind of where we've kind of landed on this board. So there's things as over time, to our chair's point, that we kind of mold. So that just gives you one example. Thank you.
Brad, thank you, and I take away from that last point and your interest in us focusing on drones as well. I wrote it down before you even said it, I knew it was coming. On that note, I'd like to motion to end tonight's meeting. Do I have a second? Have all those in favor? Stay warm, fill your pockets with candy.